Hi everyone! Welcome to this continuation of our Christmas sparkle themed arrangement. So obviously we have now made the beautiful stunning red amaryllis. So the next part we're going to do is going to be two other flowers that are very popular at Christmas time and often forced. Forced means that you plant the bulb and obviously put it in a dark area so they will bloom at Christmas time. But the paper whites and also French tulips are both very popular as cut flowers or forced bulb flowers at the Christmas time. So let's get started. So in this two-part lesson, we're going to be making French tulips. Now, obviously tulips come in many colors, but I love actually French tulips in white. And obviously at Christmas time, you often see these used. The arrangement we're going to be making is going to be a little bit more modern contemporary in style. So the white tulips are perfect to balance with the red amaryllis. And we're going to add paper whites as well. Now, as you can see, tulips obviously change a lot of different shape variations. So you can see this is a classic sort of more of a rounded petal shape, which you can make in the way we're going to make our tulip and just cut off the pointed top because we're going to use a cymbidium orchid cavity in the ultimate orchid mold. And so you can change the shape of it, but also tulips can be pointed, and we're going to almost do a sort of pointed, slightly pointed one. And of course you have fringe varieties, so there are many varieties of tulips. And then this is the paper white. Now these are often, as I said, given as gifts at Christmas time, particularly here in the US. This is very popular now. You buy them in a sort of a glass vase, and the bulbs are already in there. You just pour water in and then obviously put it in generally a dark closet or room, and then you obviously it forces them to bloom early. And these are very popular at Christmas time for weddings and, as I said, in hotels, restaurants, and to give as gifts. The paper white is a member of the jonquil or narcissi family, and so very obviously related to the daffodil. But as you can see, the trumpet is a lot smaller and more of a shallow cup shape. But this technique can also be made because you get mini daffodils made like this. And so when we make the actual trumpet, I'll explain about if you wanted to make mini daffodils as well. But the paper white is obviously 6-petal flower. We're going to actually use the lily of the valley for this part of the throat, the trumpet. And then we're actually going to use the blossom mold, where we're going to do 2 3-petal parts from the elongated, slightly pointed blossom cavity for the back of the flower. And so you can see here, it just shows you some of them are a little bit more frilly, all right, and some are a little bit more straight. So that is our what we're going to be making. So next step is going to be to start on the French tulip. In flower book number 2, I showed the French tulip. This particular one was made in the same way as we're going to make, except that I used actually this was made with the peony, the extra small peony petal, because obviously at that time this was really the best option to use for this particular tulip, and obviously showed the tulips. So this shows obviously making the tulip, and so we're going to use a very similar technique, but what we're going to do is we're going to make a slightly pointed variety. So we're going to use the sepal from the cymbidium orchid on the ultimate orchid mold. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to make a rose cone. All right, so we're going to actually make 3 tulips. So we're going to make 3 rose cones. All right, we've made these many times before, and obviously when you make this needs to dry, so you can pop that in your food dehydrator, or obviously just leave it a few hours to dry. Or if obviously you're working in air drying clay, you only need to leave it for what I'm going to do the sequence, which will be the cone of the tulip. Then we'll make the center of the paper white. Then we'll do the petals of the tulip. But if you're doing it in special classic paste, flour paste or gum paste, you can just put that on the convoluted foam, lay that in the food dehydrator, or stand it on a block, bend a wire like this, put it in your food dehydrator for a couple of hours, and it'll be totally dry. But generally 3 or 4 hours at room temperature will be okay. It shouldn't come off the wire. So we're going to take in your checklist, it has 9 20 gauge half-length wires. All right, so this is going to be to make the 3 centers. So I'm just going to show you one of these because we've done this many times before, and this is really what we use for a rose. So we're going to take the wire and half width light green floral tape. All right, so we're going to go around 10 times, using pliers, go around 10 times, and then add an extra 2 extra half-length wires. All right, so we go 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10. Now when you make roses you can go 15 times, but we're just going to go around 10. All right, 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10. And then at this point we will add 2 extra 20 gauge wires. I'm doing these on half length wires because we're going to make a fairly sort of compact, sort of low arrangement. But of course, when you do tulips, you could use, these are half length wires, you could use them, you know, longer than this, like 2/3 of a length, 3/4 of a length, depending on how you're going to use the flower. Don't worry too much about the stem at the moment being perfectly even because we're going to actually cover that later. Now, once we've done that, we're going to take a number 10 small ball of white paste. Now, in your supply list, all right, in the checklist, we've got 50 grams of white flour paste, gum paste, flexi paste for sugar, and air drying clay, and number 16 small. And you won't need all of this, but because obviously this is a color, whatever you have left of this, unlike custom colors, you just put it back in the pack. So you just basically need some white paste. All right, so we're going to take number 10 small. All right, and I'm just showing you one of these, so you're going to make number 10, so it wants to just go through the hole. All right, so number 10 small, and you obviously going to make a total of 3 of those. So obviously just keep 2 of those under a little cup, and we're going to just condition your paste. All right, and we're going to roll that into a ball. We're not going to see any of this, so don't worry if there's any little cracks or anything in it. That's not going to be seen. We're going to brush this with glue, obviously like PVA glue for air drying clay, flexi glue for flexi paste, egg white usually for flour paste or gum paste. All right, and so we're going to then put that into, put this into here. Now, usually when we make roses, we just use a single 20 gauge wire, because obviously when we put the petals on, we're going to have to bend the flower, hang that flower upside down. So it's usually easier for a rose just to use a single wire. And then when you go to put the calyx on, before you add the calyx, you add 2 extra wires. Here, we're going to do this at this stage, all right? So just going to pinch that around the bottom. All right, so use a little bit of corn flour, cornstarch as desired. Make that into a basic cone shape, and then we're just going to rotate that in the mold. All right, so remember that the extra paste is just going to go to the bottom of the mold like this. All right, and you can then just trim that off. All right, just pinch that, just make sure that's pinched around the bottom, and then you can just finish it up in the mold again, just to give you your cone. So this gives you the cone. So just do a couple of times just to make sure that's the right shape, all right? And just as I said, trim as needed. So you can then, once you've trimmed this, we're going to put this to dry. So as I said, if you're using a convoluted crepe foam, you can lay that in the crepe foam, or you can just stand that, or you can just hang that in your food dehydrator as well, all right? And then as I said, we need to let that dry. In air drying clay, you're just gonna, obviously they don't take long to be able to use them. And so that is the cone. So we'll make 3 of the cones, all right? So 3 cones like this, and then we need to put those to dry. Next, I'm gonna move on to the first part of the paper white, so that can dry, and then we'll come back to the tulip. Now for the paper white, it says in your checklist, we need some yellow violet stamens or round yellow or white stamens. Now, these are called violet stamens, all right? Now, some companies, obviously, because you're all over the world, you know, some companies you might just to search on pointed stamens, but these are actually made to use in violet. So when they make silk violets, this is usually what is used. Now, next spring, when we do we're going to be doing the little French violets, we'll be using these type of stamens, all right? So we'll be using these again. But they're just like a really rounded stamen with a point on the end of them. Now, these are actually like a very, very pale yellow, and these are a darker yellow. So you can use these and just dust them with some daffodil, or obviously use the darker yellow ones, all right? And then also, if you don't have those, or you have just some round, either white or yellow ones, these will also work fine as well, okay? So I'm going to show you how to use those. So we actually need 9 stamens, all right? So if you take 5 stamens and then cut them in half, that will give you 10, and you're going to do 3 at a time. All right, so you're going to hold those. So you're going to hold the stamens like this. We need some quarter width floral tape, and you need a 22, so take a half length 22 gauge wire, can be white or green. take 3 violet yellow stamens or round stamens and tape onto the end of the wire. So you place the wire right up against the base of the stamens. Now what I do is I just sort of catch the end of the tape between my thumb and first finger, and what we're going to do is going to go around 5 times. We're making almost like a little ovary. We've done this technique before, but what this means is when we pull it into the center of the flower, this will sort of help to sort of so it doesn't come through. So you're just going to go around 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right, and then you're just going to come down the wire like this. All right, and you want to come at least about halfway down the wire. Okay, but you see how you have this little, almost this little bulb of floral tape at the bottom there, and you just open up the little stamens with your fingers or tweezers, like that. All right, so if you were doing them with the pale creamy yellow ones, all right, what we then do is we'll move on to the next stage, which is going to be to color them and then put some semolina on. So if you've used a darker yellow one, they just need to have the pollen on because they're already yellow. But if you've used a paler color or you've used white, for example, round stamens, you can just dust those. So you're just going to dust those with some daffodil yellow. So that will give you the same color as you see the pre-colored ones, all right? So that's a pretty easy step to do. So we're just going to color those, and then we're going to use some semolina, and going to attach that with, apply that with a little bit of glaze. Now remember, for air drying clay, you could use clear nail polish, and you could use obviously the semolina, or you could use yellow sand for air drying clay. All right, so we're just gonna, we don't want a lot of pollen on there. So get rid of some of the pollen off the brush, and then you're going to just brush a little bit of the glaze onto the pollen here, and then just dip that into the glaze. So just give a little bit of pollen, but as I say, you don't want to make it, don't do it too heavy, all right? So you're going to put a little pollen onto there. So we're just going to put a little bit of glaze onto the stamens there, and then we're going to go into the pollen here, all right? So that will be the, so remember, you're going to make 3 of those. So we're going to make the 3 centers. And then once we've done that, next we're going to move on to the throat. So for the throat of the paper white, which we're going to make 3 of these, we're going to take number 5, all right? So we're going to measure a number 5 paste, so regular size 1/3 to below, 2/3 above. And what we're going to do is we're going to use the Lily of the Valley cavity. So this is the one used for Lily of the Valley, so it's closest to the center. Remember, this is like a bluebell and hyacinth, all right? So this is the one we would use for Lily of the Valley. And I found this worked perfect for this. So we're going to take a little bit of, tiny bit of vegetable fat shortening into that cavity. All right. And then all we're going to do is going to mold it into a sausage. Press the sausage paste into the mold, roll across the top with the shaft of the companion tool. So we're just going to roll that into a little sausage, all right, like this. And then what we're going to do is going to press that into the mold, and just press that in with your finger. And then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to actually just roll across the top with the companion tool. So it wants to be, you can almost sort of see the translucency through the paste, all right? You can see the sort of translucency through there, all right? And then I'm going to take this out. So this will be taken out of the mold. Okay, so you've actually done this. So it's quite different from the way we make Lily of the Valley. And then what we're going to do is you're going to remove this, place a number 7 hole on the size guide on top of the hat, and cut around using companion tool. So what we're then going to do is going to take your number 7 cavity on the size guide and just press that on the top, and then just using your companion tool, what I'm going to do is just going to cut around with the companion tool. So what we're doing is just using that as a, like a little circle. Just going to pull away the excess paste. You can also do this with scissors, but I found this is sort of going to give everybody the exact size that they need, all right? You can just, now when you do this with a larger, like if you're making a mini daffodil, you can also, you do the same thing with the large, this is the bluebell or hyacinth. And then what you do is then is you can use a round piping tip or nozzle, all right? Now that is the size of the piping tip, the wide end of the tip or nozzle. But this is going to give you the little center. Now we're going to then take this onto your pad. All right, so we're going to then place on the firm side of the pad, and on the back, frill around the edge using the needle tool or the companion tool. So what we're then going to do is going to use your needle tool of the companion tool. So you see, this is going to be frilled around the edge. All right, so you see you frill out around the edge. Then what we're going to do is use a little cornstarch on your ball tool and end of your companion tool. And then you're going to take this up, and then we're going to hollow the inside with this. You see how I'm just almost pinching this around, like a bit like we do the little valley, okay? And then once you've done that, we're going to frill around the edge, and then we're going to use the ball tool, medium ball tool. So this is actually about a number 4 size, all right? So because ball tools vary, this is the FMM medium size, the medium and large, but you want a ball tool that is about a number 4 on the size guide. And then you're just going to hollow out a little bit more. So you go and you see how you make this little sort of cup, all right? And then all we're going to do is then we're going to frill this inside. So the inside of the trumpet. So you go from the rim of where you just going to work this out with your. Now remember, with air drying clay, if your paste is sticking to the stick, just put a little bit of cold cream or moisturizer like Nivea cream onto there. All right, and so you're going to just sort of frill around the edge here. So you see, you just sort of frill the little throat like this. All right, it's fairly simple. So frill the edge, and then you're going to brush glue at the base of the floral tape center. You can make a little hole right in the middle there, so you know where you're going to aim for. And then you take your little center that we have. All right, and I'm just going to brush a little bit of glue just around that floral tape bud, just around the bottom of the floral tape bud. I'm going to keep the brush into there. And then you're just going to thread this down through the middle. You slide this up. This wants to come down to the bottom. And you're just going to mold, you see where the bottom part is there? Just going to mold that onto the wire a little bit to secure that. Now then you're just going to just almost pinch that. You can just sort of pinch that, make sure that looks sort of fairly symmetrical. That the stamens are in the center part there. And that will be your little trumpet of the paper white. All right. Now some of paper whites, they're just almost sort of scalloped, or some of them are actually smooth. So you can do different varieties or techniques. And also, if you want to do the one that doesn't really have the little lines on it, you can just roll on your finger with your companion tool, like we do the shaft when we do soften the edge of the petals. All right. So as I said, if you look at, as with most flowers, there are many different varieties, but we're going to do this one with a slightly frilled throat, because the tulip is more sort of a straight shape, just to add interest to the arrangement. We're doing the one with the type of variety with a little bit slightly frilly throat. So you're going to make 3 of those, all right? And again, you can put these in your food dehydrator, you can hang them, or just let them dry for a few hours naturally, and they'll be ready for the next step. So now we're going to move on to the buds of the paper whites. So now we're going to do the buds. So we're going to make 2 buds. So we take a half length 24 gauge wire. The bud is on a little thinner wire. Remember, 22 is obviously 1 size thicker, heavier than the 24. So we're going to take 2 half length 24 gauge wires. Again, it doesn't matter what color, green or white. And I'm using here half width tape. We're going to make a little floral tape bud like we did for the French tulip. So we're just going to go around 5 times, hook, and then 5 times. All right. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You can usually use your fingers or pliers there. Make a hook, all right? And then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And just come down the wire. So it'd be the same as we use for like a stephanotis. Getting about sort of half to 2/3 of the way down. All right, then what we're going to do is I'm going to take a number 6 small. All right, so this is going to be number 6 small size. So that means it wants to just go through the hole. So you're going to make it a number 6 small, and you're going to, of course, make 2 of those. Put one of those under your little pot. And then what we're going to do is roll into a 15 millimeter, 5/8 inch sausage. All right, so we're going to roll into a 15 millimeter sausage, all right, which is 5/8 of an inch there. And then we're going to use so then we press the needle tool and then the ball tool into the end of the companion tool for the sausage. All right, so you're going to use your needle tool first. So just go in almost until see where obviously it goes from the needle to the shaft here. You just put a little, so you're just going to put it until the shaft just disappears into there. All right, and then you're going to use the ball tool end, and that's going to just open up. This is very much like when we do a stephanotis, and you go down to the bottom, so the ball tool is in the base there. Next step is you're going to take a little bit of glue, and you're going to brush a little bit of glue onto your floral tape bud, and then you're going to, and it's going to go into the sausage. So you're going to mold that into the sausage, then you're going to just mold that down. All right, so, and then you're going to place this into the hyacinth mold. Now the hyacinth mold is the bigger one. All right, so what you do here, you're just going to take that and just going to press. When you press this, you want to almost, don't sort of just hold the edge side of the paste and just press into there. And you see what that does is actually going to give you 6 little lines in the end. All right, so you just press that in because there's obviously 6 petals here, which is what we're going to use on the outside. And then you're going to use your companion tool, so where each of these lines are, so it's almost like a miniature stephanotis bud, okay? All right, that's going to give you a little, and then you're just going to stretch that down, and this wants to be stretched down to, wants to be about 20 millimeters long, and you can just taper this down because it wants to sort of taper on the bottom, so you won't leave all the paste there. Just sort of taper it down, but it's just easier having a bigger piece of paste to push it into the mold. And this wants to be about 20 millimeters, and again you can just take your scissors, then the 20 millimeter point, you can just take off that little tiny bit of paste. All right, but just going to just taper that down, and your little lines want to come here. You just sort of scratch the lines down. 3, 5, 6. All right, and so very easy, but it's like a little stephanotis bud, but a little bit more slender. Very much like for example, some of the other, obviously jasmine family and that, they have this sort of longer, skinnier tuberoses, things like that. All right. So as I said, using that mold is just a good way. When you get that, press it in, we'll divide it into 5. Remember, we use a technique like on stephanotis where we use the umbrella tool, and this will divide it into 5 sections. This will divide it into 6, all right, because this is a 6-petal flower. So that is actually another technique I'm showing you where you can press the paste in when you're doing 6-petal buds, all right? So it could be used for lots of different flowers like freesias, and so this is very similar to a freesia bud, for example, that has 6 petals. All right, so they will be your 2 buds, and again, they're just going to dry to part 2. So next we're going to come back and we're going to do the next stage of the French tulip. So once the cones are dry for a few hours, or instead of 2 or 3 hours in obviously room temperature, or an hour and 9, about 90 minutes in a food dehydrator. Air drying clay, you can go straight on now, you don't, because obviously they're going to be dry. After 10-15 minutes, the air drying clay won't come off the wire because it shrinks onto the wire. So now what we're going to do is going to take number 6 large balls of paste. So we're going to use a number 6 large. Now remember, this is the same when we did the amaryllis, we used a 6 large, all right? So when we did some of the components on that, so you're going to use that, so about 1/4 below, 3/4 above. But you can see it still is quite a small, will be a smaller than a 7, all right? Remember, most of the time we're going to use the 1/3, 2/3, just a standard size, or a small. But obviously there are some times where, for example, a 6 regular is too small, is too big, and obviously too small, and then obviously a small 7 is too large. So that's why we sometimes use an oversized. So 1/4 below, 3/4 above, okay? Now when I did actually in book number 3, when I did the actual Cymbidium orchids, I use a 7 small, because when we want the orchid, we want it to be a little bit thicker, because orchids are a little thicker in real life. All right, and so what you're going to do is going to put the little balls of paste. You can put 3 of them in a bag and then 3 of them under a pot. And you're going to then roll a sausage. All right, so remember, you can roll on a little silicone mat. Usually it's easy to or you can also use the back of the veiner as well. You can use, like, for example, back of the veiner also as another way you can roll that. And we're going to make that approximately about 2/3 of the length. Just press that in. And I have put a little bit, because I've made a couple of these petals, I have put a little tiny bit of shortening into here. All right, so you just put a little bit of shortening in. Just press that into the middle. All right, just sort of press it down initially with your cosmetic sponge, so it's almost the length of the cavity. And then we're going to start to work this. So you want it to be a little bit thinner around the edges. So you see I'm rolling it. I'm just sort of working it to the edge of the mold and the bottom of the mold here, like this. But that will mean it will be a little bit thicker in the middle, which is where we want it to be. Now we're going to use a peony back veiner. All right, this is obviously, you could use this. Also, you could use the lily back veiner as well, but I'm using peony. Just going to line this up. All right, and so then you're going to vein the back here. So we're going to take this out. Going to put it onto, this is the back, all right? The front of the petal is going to have this sort of lateral vein, all right? So this is the back, and you're going to then use your large ball tool, and we're just going to soften around the top edge. Now, just like in the amaryllis, if you're doing this with your air drying clay, you can use a metal balling tool and roll that, or also, of course, you can also use the companion tool, and you use more of it's not too frilly, all right? So you're just almost like doing a softening on the top edge of that, all right? And then you're going to place this onto cosmetic sponge, and with your veining tool, the companion tool, needle tool end, you're just going to vein the top end, top half, and just make that to a slight pinch, and then you're just going to use your large balling tool or metal balling tool for air drying clay, and you're just going to stroke from the top to the bottom. So you see it will give a slight cup, and of course when you do that you're going to get those little slight frills on the edge of it. All right, so that will be the petal. Now you put that under a cup or container. You want something big enough to obviously support they can get them under there. And then I'm going to show you one more petal, and then I've got some ready for showing you the next stage. Now we're going to put 3 petals on and then another 3 petals. This is a quick tulip because obviously we don't have any wired components. But of course you could actually do the same as I'm showing you and put a wire in, like a 28 gauge white wire, and then dry them in a former, like spoon former, to make a more open tulip, all right? Like we've done some other projects. But I like these little tulips because they're really useful and they're great. You know, if you have a quick little birthday cake to do, you can do them in pale pink or yellow or different colors. And of course, tulips, you know, when I grew up as a child, tulips you only usually see at springtime, a little. But tulips now, you can start getting tulips here in the US, starting usually in around September in the supermarkets, grocery stores. You get tulips and they go really almost all the way through to late spring, early summer. But of course, because flowers are grown and flown in from all over the world, in a lot of countries like Australia, they have a reverse climate, that our winter is their summer, for example, and then you can, of course, things are flown in. So pretty much this at one time was a seasonal flower, whereas now tulips is something, if a bride wanted tulips in the middle of summer, she can get them, all right? And so you're going to take that out of the mold, and you're going to put this, remember this is the front, which has obviously got that line on, and you're just going to use your, just soften just the top edge just a little bit. So this is, whereas when we did the amaryllis, we used a smaller ball tool and went back and forth like this, all right? That gives you more of a frilling. But here we just want to soften. This is more like how we do roses, all right? So just on the top of the top half, and then you're going to put that onto cosmetic sponge. Going vein down, just make a slight pinch, and then you're going to use that large balling tool, and then it's going to cup petal slightly. All right, and I've got these, I've got obviously another one already red here, and I've got the outer petals as well, because they're all done in the same way. All right, so you continue until you've got three petals, and these will be our 3 petals. All right, so we have our 3 petals here. And now we're going to put these on, and you can take one at a time, and obviously put those on. All right, so we're going to now move on to the next step. So, so we're going to, once we've done the 3, we're going to brush glue on the bottom half edges and down halfway down the petal center. All right, so we're going to take that here, So with your glue, we're going to put the glue here. So about halfway down the side and the center. So you just do in like almost three lines, 1, 2, 3, like this, all right? You take your cone. This is my dry cone. And what I'm going to do here, I'm going to attach the first petal. So I'm going to use the square edge of the petal. So I'm just going to press that on like this. So what I do is you see, I'm just going a little bit like the amaryllis, how when we put the 3 petals on, but you see how you're just going down where the glue is, all right? So that will be the first petal. Now, then your next petal, you're going to take, you can use your little companion tool to lift that up. So again, I'm going to put the glue down here. So again, with air drying clay, it sticks to itself. But you know, sometimes the air drying clay gets a little bit dry. So if you want a little bit of that glue on there, but if it's sort of sticking okay, you should be okay. Now the next petal is going to go to the right, all right? And of course, when that goes on, you need to sort of try and look in the space, because we want to sort of fairly evenly space those. So you see there's going to be a gap between the first and second petal, and there'll be a gap here as well. All right, and you can, so just press that on. And then this one is going to just tuck inside that. So you just sort of peel the paste back. And then you're going to just, and this is sometimes easier to do. So you can use your companion tool. You just sort of put that on there. So you see there's a little gap, very much like a rose, all right? And also when we did the amaryllis, you see, so there's a gap here, but you see that the petal number 1 is on top of number 2, all right? So you see how they sort of get in the shape. You can hang these if you need to. You know, if it's humid in your room, whatever, you can put them on and hang them upside down, but usually they will be fine. And then you're going to put the glue here and here. And petal number 3 is going to sit here like that. So you see you've got a sort of an even gap between the 3 petals, all right? So remember, you're going to just sort of attach that. And then again, you can just lay that on your finger. And you're just going to just gently bring that the right-hand side. Now with your, especially with your air drying clay, because it will fuse, when you use air drying clay, just don't sort of stick too hard the petals on, because when you peel them back, they will tear, all right? But you see how the 3 petals they're going to, so you see petal number 1 will go on top of number 2, number 2 will go on top of number 3, all right? So you create that spiral. So you see, as we're looking at it, all right, the left-hand side, the left-hand side, the left-hand side is going in a spiral. Now, what we're going to then do is we're going to use your companion tool, the needle tool end, and you're going to start to work the petals in. That left-hand side of the petal wants to go into place. And you're just going to just pinch those. All right, so where the ends of them are slightly, but what you're going to do is just going to close that up. And if you need to use a little bit of glue in here, you can put a little bit of glue on the top of your cone. So just go in there with your glue, and you're going to then, so you see how I'm going to then just use my second one and then my third one in here. All right, and then what you do is you're going to, because you want to sort of don't want to see the cone in the center, but you see how you're bringing those petals around here like that, all right? And then you can just sort of squash them where they will meet, but you see how you get a nice sort of center, all right, of the tulip, all right? And as I said, you can use your, here we can just do a slight pinch on the petals, 1, 2, 3. So just have to be a little patient, and as I said, just work those in, very much like a gardenia, but I found the companion tool works really good for that. Just tuck that in, and that will give you your first petal, all right? First petals. All right, so it wants to look nice like this. And then, so this is a little bit like the magnolia we made in the springtime. Now, what you're gonna do, best thing to do is to then, you can do the next, obviously next 3 petals on the next cone, and the next 3, so you can do like a production line, or you can go straight through as I'm going to show you. All right, so you can either do 3, 3, and 3 petals, then 3, 3, and 3, or you can do 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3. It was whatever you prefer to do. All right, so that gives you the sort of center of the tulip, and they usually stay upright like that. And then you're going to then repeat the process. All right, so then you do exactly the same. I just have these in a bag, but you don't need to do that, because obviously you'll have them, you make 3 at a time and then stick them on. And then just going to put these here. So remember, the outside of the petal, this is obviously the inside where we softened and put the line. The outside is going to have that sort of stronger lateral vein, okay? And here, exactly the same technique with the glue. You're going to put a little bit of glue down the bottom half. And then you're going to take the tulip. Now, these petals are going to sit, so where you can see the cone underneath this bare area here. So the petal in my thumb is going to sit directly over the top of that. All right, so just line that up. So, and again, just like the amaryllis. So then you see we're just going to put that first petal on here. All right, then you can take the second one. Just put some glue onto there. All right, that will be the second petal. And then you're going to do the third and final petal. But I would keep them covered until you use them so that the air doesn't get to them. And especially, you know, your air drying clay and obviously classic gum paste, flour paste. But just, and also don't press too much here, because you don't want to erase the vein in onto there. You see, and these will give you your three petals. All right. Now, what you can do is you're going to make one of them a little bit tighter. So you're going to use the same technique where you're just going to sort of put the petal on, and then you will then use a little bit of glue, and then you do the third one here and just tuck that inside the second one here. And then you're just going to do the same. So that will make a sort of a more like a closed up tulip, all right? And then what you can do there is you can just hang that upside down. Now you can use a little bit of your companion tool here, just sort of press, just almost like roll just right at the bottom there. And remember, if you need a little bit more glue, you can do. All right, so that will give you, this one I've already partly colored, but you're going to make one and just hang that upside down, all right? Because that will be like a sort of a tighter one, all right? So a little bit like the when we did the magnolia bud. And then your other two outside ones, just put a little bit of more glue down the center, because we want to make two a little bit more open. So a little bit of glue down the center like this. All right, and then they can be, again, just pinched. So you see how I'm just creating this sort of shape here. And then you're going to, just as I said, where that slight overlap is, just going to glue that. Just have a little bit of patience. As I said, when you do this, you can use, you can put those on. And then what I'm going to do is, you know, these will be, then I'm going to open this up a little bit. All right. So just as I said, I'm sticking that and then just sort of opening up the top of this so that the flower will have this nice shape. All right. And there's going to be just a little tiny bit of overlap there. All right. So what I have here, I have the sort of the sequence. So see, this one here is tighter, so you just sort of hang that upside down, and then this one you see is just opening up a little bit, and then you can have one that's opened up a little bit more. All right, so you almost get like the three you see like the tight and then the slightly open and then the one that's open even more. All right, so just like almost like roses, you have that transition of this sort of stages there. So that will be your tulip. All right, and so we're going to make the tulip, but if your paste is flopping a little bit, you can obviously just use a little bit of glue on there and obviously hanging this upside down for a few minutes, and then you can just open that out a little bit. Now don't worry if you can see the cone a little bit in the middle, but remember you want to try and just get the petals, and that's why obviously. Now the other thing I want to mention, if you were doing this with, say for example, pink tulips, you would make your cone in pink, all right, or yellow tulips, you make your cone in yellow. Because if you can imagine, if you did a dark, say, burgundy tulip and you have a white cone, you're going to will see the middle of it. So your cone is always the same color as obviously the petals that you're going to put on the outside. So very, very easy flower. It's a very quick one to make for like a last minute cake. And again, put that in a food dehydrator for 45 minutes. You can color it and put it on the cake very, very easily. So that is the tulip. Okay, so once your trumpet, the center of the paper white is dry, all right? So, again, as I said, just obviously depending on humidity level, if you're using a food dehydrator, it doesn't have to be totally dry, but as I said, it wants to obviously hold its shape and things. Again, air drying clay, you can go straight onto this. You won't have any drying time with your air drying clay. So we're going to then move on to the actual outside part of this. Now, a daffodil, like a lily, has the 3 sepals and 3 petals, all right? So we're going to use actually this is the blossom mold, all right, with springtime blossoms, and you're going to use the one closest to the Katie Sue designs at the top tab. This is the pointed one that we would use for peach blossoms, but also remember you can use this for citrus blossoms, small orchids, lots and lots of different flowers. So we're going to be using this also in the springtime. I'm going to be showing you how to use these to make French violets and little Johnny John pops, heartsease and things as well, the viola family. But so this is a very, very versatile mold. Like most of my Flower Pro molds, I design them to make not just what the flower mold is made for, but obviously lots of other things as well. Now we're going to use a little bit of shortening onto here, and this is going to go, and I'm using the 3 petals closest to the tab on the mold, the Katie Sue, because we're going to do 3 petals and then another 3 petals, because this is very much like when you make a flower like as I said, mini lily, or as I said, freesias and flowers like that. Now we're going to take, so we're going to use here once we've done that, we're going to use for the flower part, use a number 6 large, 1/4 below, 3/4 above. All right, so this is exactly the same as you just used for the tulip. Now you need 6 of these, because obviously you're going to do 2, 2 and 2 per flower. So 6 large, or obviously, as I said, so 1/4 below, 3/4 above. All right, and that will give you your shape. So going to work a little bit of that into here, and I'm just going to press this into the 3 petals. All right, now you're just going to literally, just what I do is make a sausage paste and just push this in initially with my finger, and then you can use what you want to try and do is you see where the petals, you can just use your finger there to sort of separate those so that you don't get that. And you can also do that with your Dresden tool. All right, so you want to sort of just really stay in those 3. Now what we're going to do is we're going to like fill this up. The mold actually will be level. All right, using your flexi scraper. Then I'm going to just press on the top with my flexi scraper. So this means that we've actually filled this level. And then using your veining tool, or even the companion tool, see what I'm going to do is just make sure that you stay within the perimeter of the mold. All right, so this will be the first part. Now once we've done that, you're going to then remove, and then we're going to trim and make a small cut between the petals to separate slightly, very much like we do with other projects. So take this out of the mold. I haven't done anything with the back yet. Now with your scissors, what we're going to do is we're going to cut, you'll see that actually the vein in here, so you're going to cut into the middle here, you're going to cut into the middle here, and if you have any little areas here, you can just trim that. All right, so that's going to, so you have almost like a sort of an angled cut there, and then you're going to make a little cut, just a little tiny cut in between the 2 petals, because it's going to sort of separate them slightly, because we're going to form a triangle with those. Now we're going to turn this over onto the soft side of the foam, and you're going to then make it like a propeller shape, you see? All right, so you see it's sort of like it's going to be like a propeller shape, but you don't have to do that at this stage, but that's what it will end up being. So then what we're going to do is place smooth side up on the soft side of the pad and stretch the petals to 20 millimeters long from the center to the tip. So here, what you're going to do is just going to stretch the petals. So they want to be about 20 millimeters. So what you will do there, all right, so if you can actually put that physically onto there. So you see from that middle point to where I have the petal, it wants to be about 20 millimeters, all right? So just, so use your Dresden tool flat. And then once you've done one, you're just going to do the other two to sort of match, all right? You see, so it's going to give you the 3 petals. Then you're going to use your Dresden tool just to flatten the side. So just flatten the side a little bit. So you just widen that, all right? And then next step is going to be, then you're going to press the fan veiner onto the petals 2, then 1, like the dahlia. So when we did the dahlia, all right, so remember, as I said, your petals will be like this. So we're going to do like the dahlia, so we're going to press that on 2 of the petals. All right, so that will be on 2 of the petals and then on the single petal. Now the back veiner that comes with obviously the blossoms won't work here because of the shape of the blossoms and the lines, and obviously we're using it just as 3 parts here. So this is done on the back, and then you turn over onto cosmetic sponge vein from the center to the outside in each petal and pinch to a point. So then you're going to turn this over, and then you're going to use your here companion tool. Got a little tiny bit of lint there, and then you're going to bring that down. So you see you're going to make like a little point in the center, and then you're just going to pinch, pinch. So of course, if you can make a trumpet like this we made in white. You could use this size, or obviously the larger version of the Lily of the Valley, the bluebell and hyacinth mold, and then that could be done in orange. Then you can do what I'm doing now in yellow, and that will make like little mini daffodils. So almost like little tiny miniature varieties of daffodils. Now then you're going to brush the glue at the petal base and form into a cone shape, and then slide up to meet the throat. Now again, we've used this technique before, all right? So what we're going to do here, going to brush your glue. So you're going to brush your glue around the bottom here. It's going to come up about 1/3 of the way up. Now remember, this is going to be like, we've talked about this before, like a Christmas tree skirt. So what we're going to do is going to actually bring this around to form that into. So you do this up the wire. So you see I'm actually up the wire here. And I'm going to bring these around. So these will come around to form a sort of almost like a sort of so the 3 petals will go together. You see, like this. And then what you do is you're going to slide this down. So you see the 3 petals will sort of sit like this, all right? So you can just use that. Now, of course, also if you're using air drying clay or the flexi paste, you can also use a little bit of water there as well to smooth this. Not that it's going to be seen, but you just press this on gently. Now that is why also your center part needs to be dry to hold that up in place. All right, and then you can just use your 1, 2, 3 petals. All right, and so that gives you the first part. Now this can just be hung upside down. All right, air drying clay will just hold. Just going to put this on a hanging rack, so just dry that upside down. All right, just for a couple of seconds, and then while you make the next one. So I'm going to show you that one more time. Now this you wouldn't do is in a production line. You do 2 petals, 2 petals, then 2 petals. All right, so just to show you this again. So then we're going to take the paste. All right, just roll that into a little sausage, all right, and just almost put that over where those 3 petals are. And remember, you can use your cosmetic sponge, or you can use a your finger, whichever you find easiest to sort of fill the mold up, all right? Now remember, we're going to fill the mold up level, all right? So what we do here, so the paste is going to come a little bit, as you can see, into that part there. Use your little flexi scraper, just press that on. Sometimes it will pop out. And then again, using your companion tool or your veining tool, you want to just make sure that you But as I said, I found if you fill the mold up level, all right, if this is level with the mold, then as I said, you'll have the right amount to stretch, okay? So you see that sort of, you can obviously use your cosmetic sponge as well. See, so you can also use your cosmetic sponge, and especially if you don't have a flexi scraper, you just use your cosmetic sponge, so they're sort of going to be level with the top. But see, you just sort of level that off. All right, now when we take this out of the mold, so remember, first thing we're going to do is going to cut at an angle to the center. You'll see like a little dot there. A little angle. And then you're going to make a little cut, just a slight cut in between. If you get a little bit of membrane, meaning it's just like a thin skin, you can go in there with your companion tool. All right, so that's going to be the first step. Then what we're going to do is going to take this, turn this over. All right, and then with your Dresden tool, we're now going to just stretch this. So remember, this wants to be 20 millimeters. So the petal length wants to be 20 millimeters from the tip to the center. All right, so that's sort of the length of the petal. And then you're going to do the same. So just going to do the second one. Now with air drying clay, you would use a balling tool, like a metal balling tool. So a couple of ways you can do that, and you can actually, then you would actually let the balling tool roll, all right? And so you're just going to stretch it with a little metal ball tool, okay? Sometimes with the air drying clay, if you use your right angle, put again a little bit of Nivea cream or moisturizing cream on there. Then, as I said, like cold cream, that will, as I said, help to stop it sticking. All right, then we're going to take the fan veiner. All right, so remember, fan veiner comes with the sunflower, the ultimate sunflower mold, but also this is sold separately because I use this for poppies and lots of other flowers. We use this on dahlia. So if you don't have one of these, I would probably suggest buy the sunflower, ultimate sunflower, because that includes the back veiner. So we're going to take the vein here. And again, the reason why we don't do that is if you did that, the veining would be incorrect on the petals. So you see, you usually do 2 or 3 petals, like with the dahlia, because they're closer together, we did 3, and then you did 1 petal like that. All right, and then once we've done that, that's on the back. Turn it over to the front. And then you're going to just vein down the middle, slightly stretches it. It's going to end up with quite a subtle veining, but this will pick up when we put the, obviously, pearl dust onto here, the pearl and white. Okay, and then the next one here, exactly the same technique. Now, ultimately, these petals are going to sit in between these first 3. All right, so you're going to just take the petal here. So all I do is just going to position a petal. So you see I've positioned a petal between, but you see I'm a little bit up the wire. All right, so when you do this technique, you bring the paste around because you're bringing it around to meet. And then you see you're just going to, once you can see that that's in the correct place, then you're just going to just press that down gently. And that will come around to meet, all right? Now this stage, you're going to just sort of open out the outer petals and the inner petals. Like this. All right, so let's just give you a little flower. And again, just going to mold that just slightly around the bottom. Now we're going to add a little extension onto this. Where you see how you're just going to put these around the bottom. Now, with air drying clay, your air drying clay will hold its shape. There isn't any issue there with the air drying clay. And you see here using and if you have a little area where you need to trim that, you can just use your scissors. But with the air drying clay, that will hold its shape. And you can see the flexi paste is obviously holding its shape as well. All right. So you can just hang that upside down for a couple of minutes, all right, and then you can reshape it like we do daisies and things like that. But also there are other options, and if you're having, especially using classic gum paste, might be a little softer. So there are a couple of things you can do here with the mold. All right, you can use, this is a convoluted foam former. I just cut this up. So one thing you can actually do is just take something like this. If you're ever making flowers that you need a little bit of support, you can use this and literally just bring that into there like that. So we'll just sort of support it, all right? And then you can fold the wire over, and then that can just sit onto, as I said, a sort of drying rack like this, all right? And that will give you the sort of the shape of the flower. And then we've also talked about commercial formers as well. You know, these are called cell formers. These are from cell cakes. Now, cell cakes still do, as I said, you can still find these online. They're not manufactured anymore, but these are called cell formers. And this is a large, a medium, and a small. When you buy the pack, you get 2 of this size, 2 of this size, 2 of this size. Then there's also a shallow cup former, which I've shown before as well. You'd use for certain flowers. And again, 2 small, 2 medium, and 2 large. But just put cell former, so C-E-L F-O-R-M-E-R-S, all right, so cell formers. And you just make a hole in the bottom, but these are also good for drying like all-in-one lilies and daffodils and things like this. And you see this actually has 3 lower elevations and then 3 higher elevations. Now, when you use this product, you can use, like we did the former for the amaryllis, you can use a paper clip on the bottom of it, all right? So you can just put a paper clip on there, stand it in your block of foam, or you can put this into your drying rack, all right? But if for air drying clay, you will be totally fine. And as I said, you know, depending if you're working in humid in your room or something like that, but you can also just literally just hang that upside down for a few minutes to dry. And then once you've dried it for a few minutes, you can then obviously just reshape the petals here like this. And so that will give you you can see the little paper whites, all right? So you can see the little paper white flowers here, all right? So this is part 1. So we started off with making 3 cones. Remember, with air drying clay, you could basically go straight on if you want to do the petals. With sugar, you need to let them dry a little bit. So that's why I then went on to show you the 3 trumpets of the daffodils, all right? Throats or trumpets of the daffodils. Then we made the 2 buds of the paper whites. Then we finished off the tulips. Remember, I've got 1 tulip that's a little bit more closed up, and then 1 slightly open and 1 more fully open. So that obviously gives a sort of nice transition with your tulips and makes them more interesting. And then we're going to finish off with 3 of the paper whites. And they're pretty much, you know, just all going to be sort of similar. All right, if one is a little bit more closed up, it doesn't matter. But that will be your paper whites. So that is part 1 of the French tulips and the paper whites. Remember, I've chosen white for both of these flowers because they're really going to be beautiful with the foliage. And obviously, we're going to continue in the later part of this project with foliage, and then also with a gorgeous red amaryllis. So you can see here that obviously these haven't been colored yet, but you know, when you put the red amaryllis and obviously the white tulips together, going to look really stunning. So as I said, that is the French tulip and the paper whites. And in the next part, we're going to, of course, move on to the coloring, little calyxes and assembly of both of these. So I hope you've enjoyed this part 1 of the French tulip and paper whites. We'll have fun making these. Until we meet again in part 2. See you soon. Bye.